So this canvas is 2 feet by 16 inches or 400 millimeters. Now what we're going to do is we're going to have a wave hitting the shore. So as you can see, that's very light, and we want that to be the focus of the painting, and we want it off center, with our beach coming, say, at this angle here, somewhere like that. You can see that I'm very, very rough. Another word for that, of course, is creative. Where that wave is, I don't know, to be honest. I think it's somewhere in that vicinity anyway. The beach is going to be quite steep, so I think we should start the beach about there. So we'll mark that a little bit darker, around about there, say, which puts the curve roughly in here, but don't forget that the waves wash in and out of the shore. Somewhere in the background we can have some cliffs coming through. They can be taller, which means that we've got a wave here washing up and surging back, all of that movement with the focal point here, which means that this area here is going to require something dramatic. Otherwise it's going to be just a case of ocean and sky. So we can have up here some pretty good sky effects going on. I think what we'll do is we'll wrap some light in through this area here, so that the light comes through the painting like that. And that, roughly, will do me, and I'll locate it as I continue the painting through the various stages. Let's now hit it with what we call the empowerment day 1 techniques. Highly creative, and their purpose is to get rid of this blank canvas, give me some creative energy to work with that I can develop the image. You'll notice that I am not going to go to a small brush, can't even find one, and start colouring in. Do that, you're not painting, you're colouring in, it's craft work, it's not art. You're not being creative. Let's power on. And it's going to surge in around this direction like this. Ooh, that's looking terrific. See how creative I am? This is not colouring in. I'll address these as we go. Everything has got to be very light to start. This is turmoil. That is going to be pure white. There we go. Now I'm going to make a wave out of that. Okay, you don't want to muck around when you're doing this. It's all about feeling the spirit of the subject. Let's get into the light here. Don't want to overwork it. Let's bring that through. Very light in the centre here. Now I went straight over that line there, of course. All of those cliffs are going to come in later. If you're fiddling around with those now, you're not going to get anywhere at all. I'm using the knife primarily at this stage, although I have been using the brush, because the brush will come in soon, and that will be a combination then of your brush and knife technique to empower the canvas. Now varying the texture here, because this will be water that's further out to sea. Knowing how much texture to use is critical. Let's put something coming in through like this. Cleaning it up in a second. Okay, well there we are. In a matter of seconds really, it's minutes I guess. I've empowered this canvas. There are gaps. What I do is I address those, then I address the texture. So these major strokes that I did earlier captured the spirit of the elements of the painting, and now I have to work within the spirit that I've captured, refining the empowered areas that I did with techniques that are also in the spirit. In other words, I can't use the spirit energy that is captured there, here, and still have this area effective. And of course, this is where the brush comes in handy, all taught in the art classes. All I'm doing is just picking it off and wiping, keeping the brush faithful to what I'm doing. Notice I'm not blending, I'm keeping as much of that raw empowerment energy there as possible. If you don't, you're colouring in. Now normally what would happen is if somebody did this in front of you, as you're probably thinking now, this bloke doesn't know what he's doing. Well, have a look at this. That's a seascape with the beach going the other way, using these same techniques. So this painting is going to develop into something of that quality, and that's going to respond wonderfully. Can't wait. But unfortunately we have to. This now has to dry, and it's going to take some weeks. With the magic of film, here it is. It's dry. Okay. Now, you've seen the videos. 2 million views, hundreds of thousands of views of how to paint the sea. Masters, modern masters, brilliant people. There's some medium, a little brush, look at that little brush, little bitty brush, and you put in the paint like this, mixing, 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 get all the right colours correctly. This apparently is called a technique. Oh, what a technique. And look at this, we go to the canvas and we go like this, little bitty bit of paint, and then a little bit, and then a little bitty paint, and a little bit of paint like this. You've got to be bloody joking. This is the sea. It's powerful, it's alive, it's full of immense vitality. And you want to treat it like this? Little bitty like this, little bitty like this. Seriously? That is clueless. The feeling nothing. What this is colouring in. Little kitty colouring in. That's what that is. No power, no feeling, no spirit, no energy, colouring in. Well, the hell with that. So what do? Everything but what I said. You have fun. Get yourself a good sized brush. Now, if you don't understand what I'm doing, that's okay. I'm working in the spirit of the element of the subject. I'm choosing colours that will lay a foundation of vitality that are incorrect according to what you're supposed to do. And in just a few seconds, I've advanced this painting with vitality and energy. Is this mucking around? Does it feel like I'm pouncing around with a little brush? Does it feel like I'm colouring in? No way, this is creating. But it's the early stages of a long process. That dry paint is a foundation. This is a foundation. And look, I don't mean to offend anybody. They just don't know the difference. If you knew the difference, you wouldn't do what you did. They wouldn't do what they do. Working it into the surface, I'll explain what happens with that, maybe this video or another one if I feel like it. It's all in the art classes. But I'm here to entertain, show you what it's all about, and hopefully tread on a few toes and get you thinking as I do so. This is a lot more fun. Now, you remember I said we want the light in here? This is the early stages of creating the base foundation for that. It looks like it's random, but I know exactly what I'm doing, and I know if I am going to create a problem for myself as I do it. Beautiful. This is the sand and the wet sand and everything going on in here, worrying about it later. No worries about actual definition of where things are. That is for the people who are stiff, who deal in craft, not art, and are dead boring. This is fun. Notice it's still quite light. Some of this sand colour goes back into the sea as part of the base. And honestly, once this is covered, which it nearly is, this stage can stop. It's a foundation. And it is creative energy, feeling the fashion, feeling the fullness of the landscape, the energy of each of the elements. Here we are. And I could stop there, but what I'm going to do is just give it a bit of a blast. These mixes are critical. I can't let my enthusiasm interfere with the mix. Just increasing some of the effects early. Unnecessary, but it just gets me a stage ahead as well. So there's a reason to do it now as well. That was a stroke of free creativity, and there are effects in there that captured the spirit of the sea, because I'm working in the spirit of this element of the landscape or seascape, which is a chundering wave close to the shore. So there's going to be stuff going on. And this way you create the image rather than colouring it in. Every stroke has to be deliberate. I know exactly what I'm doing here and have the energy, and if you're wasting strokes in the creative process, the energy won't be in those strokes. And that's it, finished for this stage. Stop colouring in, it's boring. See ya. Light in tone, two different types of texture. The knife and the brush, capturing the spirit of it, and dry. Let's build up the drama. Add a colour here, which is gold, which brings out the light. We can begin to add the darks in through here, maybe here. It's unnatural for a big wave to hit sand like this, unless it's very steep, but it's dramatic. What we can do is bring the sea further this way, so the beach is down here and that's water. We'll see how it goes, but the main thing is bold, strong strokes, keeping in the spirit of what's here. And we resolve it later. Rubbing it in, getting it into the grooves. As it goes off, it does its thing. In the spirit, beautiful. Gold into the sand. We'll change that later. It's just very transparent. Plus, it's on the palette. Ready, waiting. Give this sand a bright lift as its visual base. Now the whole painting has been dramatised, developed, progressed in seconds, and I can stop there if I want. Just keeping the energy there. Little droplets and wavelets and everything do form. Let's increase contrast and drama. If you're not making that sound, you're not creating. In the early stages of the painting, this is now green to spark them up again, to revitalise the painting. There'll be some mayhem here, so I'm not going to make anything of it. It's just going to come by itself. So a specially prepared white mix, and all I'm going to do is just drag this down the beach. Very, very strong to the eye, the impacting the eye. My eye, that is, when I come to look at it again and work out what I want to do. Watching the texture, being very, very careful. Get more texture that I have control over with this technique. Obviously there's going to be more light, but I'm resisting the urge to get into it today because I want this determining my next look at what I do. And even these little things are a little bit overdoing it now, and so I'm gone. That's it, I'm out of their discipline. See ya. Nice and dry. Time now to rip into some of these darks in here. Strange colours, too strong, and we'll check them out. And I want to develop the light as well. And we'll go from there. Let's kill that off a bit. There we are. Okay, let's work it. This is a soft pink, lifting the brush from paint that I've already applied, because subtlety creates amazing effects. The wrong use of subtlety can do the same detrimentally. Very dirty raw sienna colour. It's actually an opaque glaze. Now that has some pink in it here, and where I'm putting it on now, which you're not supposed to do either. Wonderful. Dramatised, quick, total pleasure. Really easy. Some nice light developing in here already, and a nice kind of soft, subtle blaze of light. Just starting. I can take that in different directions if I want. Too easy. And it is. Provided you know all of the techniques, there are 12 of them, and provided you work in the spirit of the element of the subject that you're creating. But this video has gone on far too long. What you've looked through is the first 6 stages of this painting. I wanted to show you the creative approach using these techniques, working in the spirit, that develops then the foundational qualities of a work of art in this subject matter. So I'm going to show you some clips now taken from the next nearly a year of work and the next dozen stages. And we'll wrap it up and you can see how this painting ends up. The main thing is that all of the techniques were used. So what I'm really doing over the next few months of work, shown here in just little snippets, is using all of the techniques, working in the spirit, to develop the complexity of the elements of the painting, the visual complexity, the detail, the vitality, and doing this through developing the paint surface. Now, there are plenty of videos in this playlist that takes you through this passage that I'm just showing you briefly here. So you're not missing anything about the approach if you want to go and look at those and the techniques and how the complexity of the image is developed. And in fact, I've created an entire video or two describing that much more comprehensively for you. And as I develop the visual vitality, the complexity, I'm developing things like light and movement, the feeling of the sea, the way that it changes from a deep body of water that sits out the back towards a horizon to where it rises in spray and spume, and where the tops of the crests of the wavelets or bigger waves way out the back are whipped off the surface of the sea, and where it rushes up the beach and gurgles back. And that backward movement from the beach back out to sea, this is about shin deep, conflicts with the oncoming push, how the sky enriches with feeling. It becomes a real presence rather than just a washed-in background, which is sacrilege to art and an insult to the sky. I teach my students that every square inch of the painting must be respected. So if you've got a square inch of sky, it has to have the same attention, the same energy, the same visual vitality put into it as does a very important focal point of a painting. The whole thing has to have this artistic integrity, the respect for life, because that's what you're capturing, life. And yes, this is a traditional subject, but it's not created in the traditional manner. This is power creativity. This is what Turner did. This isn't colouring in. It's not painting a subject that sells very well and so you just keep pumping them out. This is over a year's work in this little painting, respecting all of life itself in its own little universe, a created world. This world that you're looking at did not exist before the techniques, before this knowledge, before all of this work went into it. So it doesn't matter that it's a traditional subject because it has been transcended into a different realm altogether in comparison with how seascapes are traditionally painted, which, controversial as it is, but it's true, is more craft than it is art. And this is art. Something else I teach is, quite simply, just because paint goes onto canvas does not mean you'll get art. Yet the world is full of misconceptions and misrepresentations, where people are selling paintings and promoting paintings and lauding paintings and themselves for what is really craft, not art. True art transcends craft. It's a different thing altogether. It's a world unto itself. And my real hope is that you see the value of knowing all of the techniques and honouring the preciousness, the rarity, the value of art and of life.